morning. I am your County Commissioner, Precinct 3, Andy Meyers. I've just completed 20 years as your County Commissioner, and it's been an honor and privilege for me to serve you that 20 years. Thank you. I do want to acknowledge, I think Chad is still here, Chad Bridges, who is your district judge. Chad, stand up. You've already, I think Wayne has already left. He was the other elected official here. I want to introduce a couple of people, and as I'm introducing them, Tom, if you wouldn't mind handing out the little handout I have here. This is Tom Pitchback, he's my Chief of Staff, and all of y'all know Lori Ann Veland, who is my Community Relations Manager. Tom, go ahead and hand those out. I've got a little handout here that I'm going to give to everybody that has to do with the project that we're currently working on. But I wanted to cover some of the issues that we have that directly impact you. How many of you would like to know when we're finally going to switch the traffic on 1093 so we have 4 lanes to do? Everybody? We anticipate, and I've been told this over and over again, we anticipate that we're going to have that change over here in a couple of weeks. About 3 weeks, we should be switching some of the traffic to the new lanes and some of the traffic that will remain on the old lanes, so you'll at least have 4 lanes. Now, when you get there, you'll see that as you come to this intersection right here, that the lanes dial down into 2 lanes and instead of 4. And if you're wondering why that happens, I can tell you why that's happened, because we have idiots in Washington who have decided that that's the way we have to do it. I started a 1093 project actually in 2000 when I started asking TxDOT. 1093 is a farm-to-market road. Any farm-to-market road is a state road, not a county road. And I started asking TxDOT in 2000, recognizing that this growth out here was going to require 1093 to be widened. And I knew how long it'd take to get a road built. And it took me a number of years to never got anywhere. So in 2007, we actually started negotiating with TxDOT. In those years, I got some legislation passed that was going to give me a revenue source that hopefully going to be used, which I did use to fund the county's portion of it. We started negotiating in 2007. 2009, whenever we were about to get the project going, I ran into a roadblock with the federal administration, the Federal Highway Administration, as well as the Corps of Engineers and several of the other wonderful governmental entities. The reason we have to work with the feds is because it's a state road, and any state road in Texas has federal and state dollars combined in it, and it is it's a pain, I will tell you, to try to deal with all those agencies. And it took me 4 years to get through that mess with the feds. So 2011, I finally got to a point where we were getting agreements going, and it wasn't until about 2013 that we actually finally finalized everything and started design and obviously we started construction last year on it. So it only took me a wonderful 10 years from the time I started to get 1093 going to actually opening the road. So that's how long it takes you to get a road built in Texas whenever you're dealing with the federal government. We're trying to do the same thing with 1463. We started on that a number of years ago. TxDOT's finally got some funds in which they're designing 1463 to be a 6-lane road. We're going to be a little cramped because we don't have a lot of right-of-way. That construction hopefully will start in some 18, 24 months. In the meantime, one of the things I'm trying to do is provide some relief for 1463. If you've driven on 1463, I don't need to tell you what a pain it is. I've been trying to get a connection to Cane Island Boulevard, Cane Island Parkway, the bridge that just completed that goes over Interstate 10, right next to where Buc-ee's is going in. We're going to be connecting 1463 to Cane Island. I've had some pipeline and other issues, problems that I've had to resolve. Anytime you build a road in Texas, you're going to be dealing with a pipeline, and I've managed to deal with 3 of them. And that's a very convoluted process. But anyway, we hopefully will start construction here shortly and get that connection sometime early next year. We're in the process now of acquiring the right-of-way for what we call phase 2 of 1093, that is from 1463 to James Lane on the west side of Fulshear. And I hope to start construction of what I call phase 2 here this year. I've got everything except a little bit of I've got a little bit of right-of-way to go, so I'll be acquiring some of that right-of-way. So that's the, we're also working with the city of Fulshear, Waller County, and Katy, the city of Katy, to build what we call the Heritage Parkway. We used to call it the Fulshear Parkway, and since it ended in the city limits of Katy, they objected to that for some odd reason. I couldn't figure that out. But in any event, so we changed the name to the Heritage Parkway. We're finalizing that deal, and the Heritage Parkway, it goes from 1093 to 10. It starts just west of Cross Creek Ranch and connects to Peterson Road in Waller County. So that's the reason Waller County is actually in the city limits of Katy. So that's the reason all those entities are involved in that. So we'll start designing that this year, start construction next year. Also working on getting what we call the Twinwood Ranch Road started. It's another 1093 to I-10. It starts a little east of downtown Simonton, Texas. And we'll start construction of that actually this year because it's a simple road, 2-lane asphalt open ditch that Twinwood actually, I'm sure most of you know who Twinwood is. They only own about 15,000 acres here in Fort Bend County. They're the one that would like to have the road built, so it's a joint venture between the two of us. Two other people I'd like to recognize and acknowledge right now. First of all, Kumar, who's already introduced himself. Stand up again, Kumar. Kumar, actually, I'm the one that has encouraged Kumar to come here today. Kumar is the publisher and editor of the Fort Bend Independent newspaper, which is the official legal newspaper for Fort Bend County and for the city of Missouri City. It has been for the city of Sugar Land and Stafford and the school districts in the past, and it will be in the future. It's an issue of he's got to be cheaper than the other guy in order to get the business. So, but I've encouraged him to come here because I believe that the Fulshear-Simonton area needs a newspaper, and so the Fort Bend Independent publishes in Sugar Land, Missouri City, Stafford, the Houston area. So I've encouraged him to try to explore coming out to this area, and obviously he needs business to do so. I've known Kumar for a very long time. Also, go ahead, Kumar. One of the things that we're looking at doing, we're negotiating with the city now, or we're trying to negotiate with them. I'm planning on trying to build a library, another library, actually a substitute library for want of a better term, in Fulshear. I've got $14.3 million in the budget to do so, and I am trying to work with the city. I'm also trying to work with some property owners, and one of those property owners is here today, George Lane. George, stand up. Thank you. George has been very cooperative with us, and we're looking forward. He owns 20 acres that is right near downtown Fulshear, right next to where the HEB property is, and it's on that property that we're looking at putting a library and perhaps a performing arts venue, and building a little park around there. I've got some money for a park also. What we'll likely will do if we do build the library in Fulshear, we'll probably close the existing library. I only need 2, and that will be either become another county facility, or we may sell it as surplus property. So that's some of the things we're working on in Fulshear. Those of you who may or may not know, whenever we started this thing, we had the issue of the railroad right-of-way, what we call the Metro right-of-way, that goes from downtown to Eagle Lake. And as we got into these negotiations, that's one of the things that held us up. Metro finally came to us and said, why don't you buy the whole right-of-way? So we did. So Fort Bend County actually owns the right-of-way from the county line to Eagle Lake. That's about 40 miles distance, so we go across 3 counties. So as we get into widening 1093 further west, we'll be obviously utilizing a large portion of that right-of-way. So we're trying to think ahead and get ahead of the game. I've handed out a little 4-page deal here that I want to cover very quickly. This is a project that we started on. Actually, it started with an effort on my part to get a north-south thoroughfare from 1093 to 10. I don't have enough north-south thoroughfares out here. I don't have enough connections to 10 for my population. I was trying to get another one, and it started out just looking at trying to figure out how to get a road built. And it got really involved. We ended up with a situation where we I started looking at the possibility of the expansion of the Port of Freeport. I ended up funding a small concept study out of a small budget that I had that revealed several things that we didn't know about the Port of Freeport. We also had created a rail district called the Missouri-Fort Bend Rail District to facilitate building a short line railroad from the Port of Freeport to the rail hub of Rosenberg. Rosenberg has the only rail hub on the Gulf Coast of the Gulf Coast of Texas. The rail hub being where all 3 of the Class 1 railroads that serve Texas come together in one place, and that's in Rosenberg, Texas. And so we were looking at, we see the benefit of a short line railroad from the Port of Freeport to Rosenberg. We created that. So we were doing a study that revealed several things we didn't realize. With the improvements to the Panama Canal, they can now have much larger ships. Currently, the size ships that can call on a Gulf Coast port and used to be able to traverse the Panama Canal had about a container capacity of about 4,000 to 5,000. With the expansion of the Panama Canal, you have container ships that are 14,000 or 15,000, so 3 times, from 3 to 4 times the size of the ships. There's only one small problem, and that is that those ships take a 50-foot draft, and there's no port on the entire Gulf Coast of Mexico that has a 50-foot channel. Everything is 42 to 45 feet. The Houston Ship Channel, for example, is an operating capacity of about 42 feet, as well as Port of Freeport's about 45 feet. Port of Freeport is one of only 2 ports. It's the only port on the Gulf Coast of Mexico that has congressional authorization to go to 55 feet because you got to go out in federal waters, you got to get the feds to approve it. They get congressional authorization to go to 55 feet. And the study determined that something we didn't realize, that of the Asian container cargo, the goods and services that come from the Asian market, that come into the Houston market, about 50% of that cargo is handled by the Port of Houston. 48% of the cargo that comes from Asia to Houston comes from LA Long Beach ports. They come to the ports on the big ships because it's cheaper, obviously, to ship on a ship that has 15,000 containers and one has 3,000 containers. And they put it on a rail line and they ship it all the way across the country to Dallas-Fort Worth. Dallas-Fort Worth is the largest inland port in the United States. It's the 3rd largest distribution center in the United States after LA Long Beach and after New York, New Jersey. Dallas-Fort Worth is 3rd. Dallas-Fort Worth serves all of Middle America, all the way to the Canadian border, and in some cases all the way up into Canada. 72% of the cargo that comes into Dallas-Fort Worth comes through LA Long Beach. Houston only provides 2% of that market. It only serves 2% of that Dallas-Fort Worth market, whereas the West Coast ports serve 72, 74%. Even New York, New Jersey provides 7% of the container cargo that comes into Dallas-Fort Worth. So New York, New Jersey is providing 3 times the business cargo that comes into New York, comes out of New York, New Jersey into Dallas-Fort Worth, and we even have the Port of Savannah has 3% of the market. So the West Coast ports together have 10%, and Houston has a whopping 2%. So looking at that, we said, well, you know, this doesn't make sense. So we then engaged the same economist that did the small concept study to do a feasibility study. And the Port of Freeport, Brazoria County, and Fort Bend County all participated in it. We all put up $200,000, did a feasibility study. They came back and said, the situation is that currently, because of the big ships, the cost to land a container in Dallas-Fort Worth is $200 cheaper to bring it into the West Coast port, put it on a rail line, rail it across half the country, and deposit it in Dallas-Fort Worth. It's $200 cheaper to do that than it is to put it on a small ship, bring it into Houston, the Port of Houston, and put it on a rail or a truck and ship it up to Dallas-Fort Worth. However, if you make the Port of Freeport a deepwater port, you flip the economics. Now it's $200 cheaper to bring a big ship into the Port of Freeport, put it on a rail line, and ship it to Dallas-Fort Worth. So we started with a process. Okay, what do we need to do to make this happen? Because now you're talking about shifting a significant amount of cargo in business and economic activity from the West Coast to the Gulf Coast. We also determined that there's really only 2 ports on the entire Gulf Coast of Mexico that can be economically and feasibly deepened and built a deepwater port. That's the Port of Freeport and Port of Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi has the problem because they don't have a large area for a container port. They're mainly a petrochemical port. They're mainly ship liquids and plastic pellets. So they're really not a candidate for that. Besides that, you've got a 70-mile channel that you would have to dredge to make it a true deepwater port. Port of Freeport being the other one, it has the advantage of having the shortest distance to deep water, which is only 7 miles, as opposed to 70 miles for Houston, almost 70 miles for Beaumont, and about the same distance for Corpus Christi. It's also got the shortest distance to the only rail hub in the Gulf Coast, and that's at Rosenberg. So from those standpoints, the Port of Freeport, although it's currently a fairly small port, has the opportunity and an advantage to be the deepwater port. So from that standpoint, and all this information kind of contained in this little 4-page sheet that I provided here. By the way, the map here, for everybody looking at the map, the green part is the market domination of the Asian container market throughout the United States from the northwest ports, mainly in Washington, the state of Washington and Oregon. And the pink is the LA Long Beach. So you can see that currently that is the market dominance of those 2 ports. You can see they dominate the entire United States with Asian container cargo. The next chart map you see shows if we have Port of Freeport as a deepwater port, that port would dominate in the blue area and be competitive in the dotted line area around there. We changed the market from 2% of the Dallas-Fort Worth market to about 36% of the Dallas-Fort Worth market by having a deepwater port at the Port of Freeport. In order to have the deepwater port, obviously you have to deepen the port, and the Port of Freeport is about a $250 million undertaking, not a lot of money, and as ports go, to be realistic, most of the other ports are in the billions of dollars to improve. The Port of Freeport has their money, the federal government has not come up with theirs. We had a meeting yesterday with Senator Carnes, a local representative, and have been going over this with a lot of our elected officials. We have formed a coalition called the 36A Coalition, and the reason we call it 36A is because there's 2 roads that go out of Freeport. One is 288, which takes you to downtown Houston, Texas. Not exactly the location you want to ship cargo. The other is 2-lane 36 that eventually takes you to downtown Sealy, Texas at Interstate 10. another location you probably don't want to ship cargo. And TxDOT is in the process now of designing the widening of 36 from the Port of Freeport to Rosenberg. It'll be 4 lanes. My 36A actually takes 36 on the north side of Rosenberg and takes it directly north through my precinct and through Waller County. We think that's better for us. Obviously, it managed to skip some of the small towns that you're going to run into. Prairie View A&M and the city of Prairie View, which is where the road would connect to 290, and the city of Hempstead, which is where we would connect to Highway 6, are all excited about the prospects of having the road go through there. On the back side of this thing, you'll see the members of the coalition. We have the city of Fulshear is one, obviously, the city of Prairie View. You'll see the list there. Even Western Lakes is in it, Simonton, etc. So we have formed a coalition of 3 counties, 10 cities, Prairie View A&M, the Port of Freeport, and other interested parties to try to promote this deal, because we need to deepen the port and obviously make the port improvements. With the port, as I already said, we've got the funds to do that if we can just get the feds to cooperate. The other thing we need to do is build a shoreline railroad. It's a 55-mile railroad that cuts off 32 miles of the distance you now have to go. If you have to come out of the Port of Freeport to get to Rosenberg, you've got to go to Houston first and come back to Rosenberg to get to the Triple Fork, as they call it, the rail hub. We cut 32 miles of that out, so we're looking at a shoreline operator coming in and building and operating the railroad. I'm trying to improve 36A. 36A, as I mentioned, comes from the north side of Rosenberg up to Prairie View and 290, and then connected to Highway 6. And we believe that this project can be a real game changer for the state of Texas. Now you've shifted the main cargo that's coming into the United States from the West Coast to the Gulf Coast. Now that you have the improvements to the Panama Canal, those big ships can traverse the Panama Canal. And we've made 2 trips to Panama and trying to work with the Panamanians. And one of the biggest proponents of our project is Ambassador Juan Sosa, who is the Panamanian Consul General here in Houston. Ambassador Sosa was actually the ambassador from Panama to the United States in the late 1980s. And if you remember the late 1980s, Panama had a little bit of a problem called Manuel Noriega, who had become a dictator and had taken over. And Ambassador Sosa was part of the elected administration that was in exile, and he was in New York. He was in Washington, D.C., and played the key role in the ouster of Noriega, and wrote a book about it, which he gave me a copy of it, which is a very fascinating book and I said, you must have had a big target on you. He said, the safest place for me to be was in front of a TV camera in Washington, D.C. He said, they ain't gonna shoot me there, that's for sure. Because unfortunately, his comrades in Panama were being executed, unfortunately. Anyway, he's a big proponent of it. He's one of the guys who's been pushing this. He's a graduate of Oklahoma, and he's a very big Sooner fan. When you meet him, you'll find that out. He is helping us tremendously with this deal. Am I running out of time? Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I'll be happy to stick around and answer questions that for those of you who may have them. I'm just trying to give you an idea of some of the things that we're working on. We've got a big legislative session coming up that we're going to be looking for some help from some of y'all. One of the things we're trying to do is do something about our appraisal, our central appraisal districts. We want to try to reform that a little bit.
Thank you, Jesus.
We have conflicting solutions to the problem, and we're trying to sort that out right now. I particularly would like to have the appraisal review board selected differently than is currently selected. Those of you may not know, the Appraisal Review Board is actually appointed by the Administrative District Judge, Jim Shoemake, who admits that I don't know anything about appraisals. You know, this is just something that the legislature gave me as a duty, and all I do is when the Central Appraisal sends me an application, I approve the guy. He said, you know, it's not my expertise, and he's a great guy. He's a tremendous district judge, but he is true. He doesn't know anything about appraisals. When he's not the administrative judge, and he'll be there for a little bit of time, but they switch those. The next guy is not going to know any more than he does. So this is not the solution to the problem. So we're trying to come up with a solution to the problem, and we're going to be asking our community to assist us in that. So you'll be hearing from us on that. With that, I'm going to close it up and let everybody go.
Give him a hand.
Thank you, Commissioner. Being a part of our meeting this morning.